Oh, and here we are on the Business Not As Usual podcast. I'm your host, Vince Mirabelli, and with me, my co-host and good friend, and just general all-around good guy, Michael Martino.
Oh, with that build up, that's something. How is everyone doing today?
Everyone is that you're talking to is fine.
Good.
I hope everyone that is listening to this is also doing well. I hope you're having a great day and a great week and a great 2021 so far. This is our second episode of the year, and we're going into this one. I'm going into this one blind, which I'm excited because
we're going to hear the raw.
You're going to get raw stuff here
today.
But Mike, you said that you've got an episode idea that is going to set me off.
Yes,
and I can't wait to hear what it is. So over to you.
It's going to set you off, and I'm gonna do the title, and I'm gonna let you go because I know it's going to set you off. The title is "Fat Stacks, Not Fat Processes." And everybody's probably like, what's this yo talking about?
What does that mean?
What I mean by that is fat stacks a la Breaking Bad, meaning all kinds of cash up. So PHAT, all kinds of money, stacks of money. That's what everybody wants. That's what companies want to make. And you go through about it, like ultimately, and you go through about it with better customer experiences, which ultimately lead to good and to have those good customer experiences, you have to have the great processes that serve those journeys, and then a whole bunch of other things. But everyone wants the fat stacks, but no one wants to take the time to have the streamlined processes that make sense for the fat stacks. So as much as they want to, so if you're drinking, you should be at 5. If you want fat stacks, you can't have FAT processes.
Yes.
So that is my build-up because it's been going on for. It's been on my mind for like a week because everybody's talking about efficiencies and all these things, but no one wants to take the time to really have the processes that effectively and efficiently serve the journeys that are going to make you the fat stacks. Yours should be at 8 by now.
Yeah. So immediately I can see why you had this one in mind, because I could talk about this for the next hour,
sure,
and then take a breath, like because it as a continuous improvement, process improvement practitioner, it drives me nuts the fact that every company says that they want to streamline, but they don't want to streamline, they want to make it faster. And the reality is, sometimes the right thing to do is to add steps to your process, if those steps add value. So when we talk about, process and not having fat processes, it's really about trimming the waste, trimming the proverbial fat. And so that's what you need to do in order to not like the focus is on streamlining and automation. But automation, as we've talked about on this show, exposes bad process, because it's going to make you actually look worse than if you get the waste out. So
there may have even been an analogy with a Ferrari and a 76 Chevette, if that's what Vince is talking about.
Do you want to tell that story again? Because I love that.
No, because I want you to go. I know you can talk about it for an hour, but
so that's fair. If you want to hear the Ferrari versus the Chevette story, you can go back to, I think it's episode number 38. But it's the one where we did our practice run of the for the BBC conference, The Missing Pieces of the Digital Transformation. It's a great story, and it was one of, like, I live and breathe this process design stuff, and even like that was a story that like set a light bulb off, where it's like, oh, that is such a great analogy. So definitely go back and check that one out. Um, Here's the thing with the fat processes. A lot of it comes back to legacy and conceding to the default, because once those processes exist, it's hard to change them without going through the rigmarole of organizational change and changes to people's roles. So it almost becomes ingrained in the way that the organization does business. What they don't realize is that that outdated, outmoded way of doing business and managing that process is actually costing them money. So let's be completely real here. When they talk about streamlining and efficiencies, generally what they mean is reducing headcount. Generally, it's about saving money. I know it's about saving money. Instead, you can remove the waste, but take the people that were involved in that work that you don't need anymore because you're meeting customers' expectations, everybody's happy. Take those people and put them somewhere else and create improved efficiency throughout the entire organization. The reason that this exists is it's twofold. One, as I've already just alluded to, it's conceding to the default. It's much easier than going through the effort of bringing change. But the one that, and actually, I kind of buy that one. Like I recognize it. I know that it exists, and it bothers me, but I also understand. I'm empathetic to that reason. The one that hurts me and that I try to push back against as much as possible is because it's hard work to actually fix processes. It's much cooler to go and, invest in robotic process automation or machine learning or AI. It's much cooler to do that because you're just glossing over the fact that you have a problem. This is what I would call, Mike, and for those that have seen me do my thing on stage, this is what I would call your classic ugly baby. It's easier to pretend that the problem doesn't exist and then try to do a patchwork solution of just crap with, AI. And again, AI and RPA and machine learning, they are good things. They're very helpful and useful in doing a lot of the tasks that they were designed to do, but covering up bad process is not one of those things.
I'm going to add another one to yours,
please.
People are romantic about the past, and so there was the reason you want to make some changes because things aren't going well, or right. You want to make them better, right? So you go along this and you do, and then you probably don't do it properly, as Vincent talked about. And then when you're a few years down the road, what pops around was, everyone forgetting the whole reason you did it, and because it was poor experiences, poor process. And then they talk about romantically how it was better back in the day. We did all these things. Like everybody has these, like the fog comes over them and they have the rose-colored glasses to talk about how it used to be was better. And so that's another reason not to, or to revert back, or not to go as far as you need to go in changing your processes, because everybody's romantic about how it was, because that's how they did work in the heyday.
Right.
Air quote. So I would add romanticizing the past.
Right.
Is also a reason for these, this is why we need this step in the process.
Right. Remember that one time?
Remember in 72?
Yeah, where something fell through the roof and hit one of my files and set it on fire. That's why we do it this other way. And it's like, but it happened once. It is not a regular occurrence. I mean, this stuff troubles me, and it legitimately makes me angry because you should be seeking opportunities to continually improve. One of the things, just building on what you just talked about and being romantic, it's one of the reasons why,
and not in a good way.
No, bad romantic.
Not like Valentine's romantic. Bad romantic.
Oh, okay. Yeah, okay. Well, those two things don't necessarily have to be. You could be bad romantic on Valentine's Day.
That's true. I mean, the intent of Valentine's Day to be good romantic.
It is, but some people are just bad at it. So
it's true.
At being romantic is what I'm alluding to. So I had a point, and then we went on that little tangent.
Sorry.
No, it's okay. So we were talking about being romantic.
And thinking about the past and not wanting to change.
Yeah, and so it speaks to what I was just talking about is just conceding to the default. It's hard work, and I know what I was going to say. This is why I get troubled whenever I'm involved in a project where at the end you do sort of a lessons learned or a debrief. And that's something that should exist throughout the process. I'm not a big, I'm a well documented, not a big fan of agile as a discipline. Not because I don't think it works, but just I don't think a lot of companies do it well.
Yes,
right.
I don't think yes, I think it's a good practice. I don't think I think a lot of people, many people don't do it well.
No, they try to jam agile thinking into their waterfall world, and so it ends up being this homogenized thing. But one of the things I really like about that approach is that in a sprint you've got constant feedback even within the team. So you do a lessons learned at the end, you're constantly iterating, and that includes within the team. Whenever with any of the projects that I've been involved with in the past, the lessons learned isn't until the end, and at that point you've delivered your project, you've delivered your deliverable, and everybody is basking in the euphoria of that.
Yes, everybody wants a pizza party at that time.
Yeah, and then you talk about like, oh man, I'm really gonna miss working with you, Mike. It was so great to get to know you, but meanwhile, throughout the whole project, you and I were at each other's throats because you know what I mean. So
he's trying to ruin me.
She's trying to destroy me. You work at JCPenney, so I didn't want to do the whole Chris Rock thing there. You work at JCPenney. But everyone's basking in that euphoria of like, hey, the project's done, great work. And so you get into, your lessons learned, and it's, this was great. I think we should definitely have a pizza party at the end of our thing. We should have more pizza parties. But you don't get any value out of that. You're not getting those aren't lessons to be learned. They're points of celebration, and that's a part of it. But you're not learning. What's that?
We're gonna use this. We're gonna have a lessons learned, which we're gonna use for the next project.
Yeah, right.
So we're gonna put it in this binder, and before we start the next project, we're gonna go through the lessons learned.
Right.
Pro tip. No one's going to that binder.
No one ever does that.
If it's not, throw it in the garbage. The euphoria of starting a new project with the MTV dance, the video dance that you're going to have, like the start of a project always brings with it like this great, we're going to have a kickoff and it's going to be a party, and no one goes, hey, remember that lessons learned binder? Like they're gonna kick you out of the room and unlock the door because they're busy having the video party. So I just sorry, I just keep thinking about the video party. But I'm just saying that no one's going back to the damn binder. So having a lessons learned because we're gonna use it the next time is malarkey.
Mm-hmm. I feel we need to take a little tangent there and explain what in the hell we're talking about. So for those that did not grow up in Canada,
well, that would be a Much Music party, but
it would, well, and that's, I mean, I had 2 of those in my high school. So Much Music would have a video dance party. Much Music was like the Canadian version of MTV.
Yeah.
And I think most people know about MTV. So
when they
Much
had
Music,
videos on MTV.
When they played videos, now Much Music is just like MTV. But they had this mobile stage and DJ setup where they would, drop into a high school and have a video dance party where they would play the music.
They would put up a big inflatable screen,
3 massive screens.
Videos. Yes.
Yeah. And so my high school, we had 2 of those. So when you referenced when you referenced the video dance party, I was immediately
did you go all the way back?
Transported 20 almost 25 years back to high school. So thanks for that, man. That was awesome. But that's what a video dance party was, right? So but I think the point is that, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, so if I misspeak, please correct. But I think the point is everyone feels good at the beginning because you're in a party. Like it's a celebratory atmosphere. You're starting something new. It's fresh. It's exciting. Mm-hmm. It's not until you get into the work that people start to rub you the wrong way, right? And so it's important that you do, if you can and if you have access to, go back and look at what are some of the things that we learned, as long as it's valuable, as long as it actually is lessons to be learned. Mm-hmm. Because lessons to be learned isn't all, sunshine and lollipops.
I think the point, Vince, is when you were saying it used properly in Agile, you'll have lessons learned along the way that you could quickly implement in the next sprint. Yes. Put the other way, when it's at the end of a long project, it's just like kind of studying for exams, right? You have to. You're not going to remember to the point of like what happened at the beginning. So that kind of usually gets glossed over. Then you put a bunch of stuff in this binder that is not going to be any use to you because you've closed off the project, but we're going to use it the next time. And my point is, no one looks at it the next time. Like it's forgotten. So unless these are like immediate things that you learned in sprint 1 that was 2 weeks ago that you're going to put that you're going to enact in sprint 3, then it's just an exercise. I'm assuming, because I don't know these things, from PMBOK, that you need to check that off, that you have a closeout. And I'm probably making that up. Everybody's gonna be like, I don't know what this guy's talking about.
All the PMs are mad at you right now. No, I mean, So you saved it there. Agile, though there are a lot of PMs that have the Agile certification. They are separate organizations. So separate.
No, I don't think I meant that.
But there is a project closeout as part of the project lifecycle. Yeah. So that you're right.
That's what I meant. I wasn't saying that they were mixed, because I know they're I know there are probably people.
The PMI people are livid with you right now.
Yes, PMI people. I didn't mean that. What I meant was, in the checklist of things to do, there's a closeout, and that's why it's done.
Right.
But that's just bringing value immediately. No one in the next big project is going to look at it. That's all. That's what I was trying to say. I wasn't saying that the worlds are mixed.
Right. So let's rewind a little bit and let's go back to,
fat process,
fat stacks versus fat processes.
Yeah.
One aspect of this another one of those aspects that drives me nuts is how infrequently businesses actually look at their current way of operating and look for opportunities to improve, to make that stack a little fatter by reducing some of the fat in their process. Because you can quantify what a process costs. It's actually not hard. How long does it take?
Mm-hmm.
What is the labor involved in completing that activity, right? So let's put some numbers behind this. I have one transaction, let's say, takes 20 minutes to do. It is done by a person who we are paying, and I'm going to keep my numbers really simple just to help myself. We are paying them $60 an hour, and it takes them 20 minutes. Well, the cost of that single transaction is $20, right? Did I do the math right? I think I did.
I'm artsy, so it's all you. So I'm
well,
artsy. I'm not going to give you any help on math.
Thanks, Mike. So 60 minutes and $60 is $1 a minute. So yes, I'm right.
Yeah.
So the cost of that transaction is $20 multiplied by the number of transactions that you get in a period, whether it's a week, a month, a year. Let's call it a year. So we get 1 million of those transactions in a year. Well, now I can quantify the cost of that process is $20 million.
That's
Boom.
A lot of money.
That just happened. So let's take this now a step further. That is a lot of money. Yeah. I would love if that were to be deposited into my account versus the business's account. So is there impetus to improve 5%? To improve your process by 5%, to go from 20 minutes to 19 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you might look at that and say it's only 5%. What's the big deal? But that 5% is worth $1 million.
Yes.
Right?
Oh my God. Sorry. Go on.
So that's how you do it. Like, if you can build the financial business case, but the thing is, most organizations do not do that. They don't keep a running tally of what their process costs. They just say it's the cost of doing business. It is what it is. Instead of, it's what we pay today. Is there an opportunity for us to do this better?
The reason my eyes lit up is I just started reading Atomic Habits, and there's a great story to start off the book, which is I always love, about the British cycling team who had 2003 hadn't won a race like in, I don't know, 50 years. They were terrible.
Sure.
And they got a coach whose philosophy was, if we just did little things better by 1%, not even talking about 5%, 1%, like if you sat different and that made you go a little bit faster, and we gave you I think one of them was they did massages real quick, and that then gained you so much, that gained you some time. So all these little things that you just if it's just 5%, everybody poo-poos it. That's it. Mm-hmm. That's not what we're getting. Mm-hmm. But if you were to add all those things up, they became the dominant team 5 years later. Mm-hmm. And so my point is, to what you were saying, instead of trying to eat the entire steak, if you just said, if we took 5% of that, which everyone would in a business case would go, that's it. But if you were to actually do that little bit at a time, you would see the massive savings and the massive efficiencies and the fat stacks rising, in the balance. Mm-hmm. You'd start seeing the fat stacks going up. So that's super important, because everyone's looking for huge numbers all the time, but not wanting to do the work to get there, to get those fat stacks.
Because it's hard.
I know
it's hard to find a 50% improvement.
Here's a hint. That's why it's called work.
Well, I know.
Hard, it'd be called fun.
My friend, you're preaching to the choir. I'm just saying.
I'm in the mood.
No, that's fine. There's but if you can apply, if you go into something, and I read something recently they were talking about, and I forget the book that I read it in, so I apologize. But I read something that was what would you rather have? comparing two charities. A charity that, or a charity management company that only takes 1% of the revenue and gives 99% to the people that the charity is designed to support? Or do you want to go with this other one that takes 30% and only distributes 70%? Which one would you rather go with? Just, Mike, I'm asking you now. Which one would you rather go with?
With that limited information?
Yeah, with that limited information.
Probably the first one, because it makes sense.
Because they're giving 99%, right? But what companies fail to do, and the point of this example is, what really matters is not the percentage that's being given, it's the size of the pie. So if the smaller management company only taking 1%, but is only bringing in $100,000 in revenue,
right?
Well, then 99,000 is going out. But this other one that takes 30%, if they're bringing in $10 million of revenue, you know, yeah, they're taking their piece, but $7 million. So, and it was one of those books that was speaking to the argument of like, you have to pay people according to the value that they bring, because it's the size of that pie that matters. The percentage doesn't matter.
Yeah,
the percentage doesn't matter. Right?
If all things being equal and they had the same size pie, then obviously you pick the first one. That's why I said with that limited information, you'd obviously pick the first one.
Right. But this is what I mean when we talk about improvement and business casing in organizations. Yeah. They look at, no, I want the 30%. It's the inverse in this example. I want the project that's going to improve us by 50%, not the one that's going to improve us by 5%, even though the 5% actually nets out bigger. Right. Correct. So you need to undertake that exercise to understand, just as a baseline, what does the process cost us? Because then you may be driven to act differently. But no one does that work. Right. Mm-hmm. This is one of the things I really loved about the Six Sigma discipline, was this quantification of business process and the cost of poor quality. Like, what is the cost of the waste in our process? And you want that number to be as small as possible. Like, it becomes really simple then. I want that to be as small a number as possible. The end.
Right.
Not of the episode of that point.
The end. Wait.
The end. So, I mean, but that requires that you have somebody that is actively, even just periodically, quantifying the cost of business process. Mm-hmm. And we don't allocate enough time for people to undertake that activity, because we're so driven by the day-to-day that we miss that bigger strategic piece.
Mm-hmm. And that was the intent of me bringing it up. It's
right.
We have these big lofty goals, but the work that goes into the lofty goals, like our work isn't matching our ambition. And so the ambition of larger profits, bigger piece of the market, being more efficient, that is not equating into the work that needs to happen to satisfy journeys, meet customer needs in relation to the processes that help serve those things. So that's why I tried to get you all riled up today.
Yeah,
it's something that's been on my mind.
It worked a little bit, and I'm gonna, when we go off air, I'm curious because I know that most of your episodes come from somewhere, so I'm curious. But I mean, this
deep in my soul.
Okay. I know this is a problem that you face. But I mean, let me assure you, in all of my travels, this concern is not unique, and everyone struggles with the same thing. Or again, not to generalize, but most people struggle with that problem. Is like, how do you grow through subtraction? And it is, and that's really what we're talking about here, is cutting that that waste, cutting the fat, and focusing on maximizing value to your organization and to your customers. That's how you're going to grow. So when we say things like it's possible to transform without technology, like this is the stuff we're talking about,
Mhm.
right?
This is exactly the stuff we're talking about.
This is it. You don't have to invest in technology. You can transform through, you know, the analog old school way. You can do it,
Mhm.
but it's harder work, and therefore it's easier to dismiss.
Correct. I think that's the point.
Yeah. So, I mean, what do you to the folks that are listening, fat stacks or fat process? What say
the
you?
challenges. What say you with the challenges?
What say you? Hit us up on all the socials, Twitter, LinkedIn, or you can visit us at our websites, vincentmirabelli.com or michaelmartino.ca. And I think I think that's it, Mike. Are you feeling better? Or are you still riled?
No. This
okay.
When I brought this up, our talk met the expectation of what I thought when I had the title of the podcast.
I'm glad. I'm gonna have to write that down. So, anyways, now we're getting into the logistics of this podcast.
Yes.
All right. Well, in that case, if you're feeling better, let's end it there. This has been Vince and Mike with the Business Not as Usual podcast. We'll catch you in the next one.
See ya.